You're watching Talking Points, a focus on the political scene in Lubbock and across the South Plains.
And welcome back. Here's a look at some of the political headlines of the past week. The city secretary has finished validating the signatures on that recent petition to force a council vote on whether or not to declare Lubbock a sanctuary city for the unborn. It's an attempt to outlaw abortions here. The petition will now be submitted to the city council tomorrow. The council will then have 30 days to schedule public hearings and vote on this. If they vote no, the organizing group can request that this be put on a ballot for all of us to vote on in May, and I'm betting that's what happens here. And because we've spent nearly 2 weeks with COVID patients in our regional hospitals over the governor's 15% hospital capacity limit, the state has rolled back a lot of its business occupancy rules. Non-essential businesses now back to 50% capacity. Bars that had not reclassified as restaurants are closed once again. Hospitals have stopped elective medical procedures, and Mayor Pope saying outdoor gatherings of more than 10 people will not be allowed until further notice. There are always October surprises in presidential elections, but Joe Biden may have put one on himself, at least here in Texas. His talk in the last debate about transitioning away from fracking angered a lot of oil industry voters. He's tried to walk it back, but it's hard to put that genie back in the bottle. We've been fortunate to have our reporters be able to speak with President Trump twice in the weeks leading up to this election. We were asked if we would provide that same opportunity to Mr. Biden, and we have. He spoke to our Dallas reporter Julie Fine this week, and we bring that to you now for 5 good minutes.
Recent polls in Texas show a very close race. What type of effort will the campaign put in here in Texas in the closing days?
Well, we put a major effort into Texas to begin with. 8 days to go, and the Lone Star State has a shot of becoming blue again. We have 17 battleground states across the country. We're not losing focus on securing the many pathways to 270. But my wife, Jill, as you know, and Doug Emhoff, Kamala's wife, are there. Kamala will be back later this week, I think on Friday. We've had a number of surrogates in there from around the country. We're connected with millions of Texans through virtual events, phone banks, text messaging programs. And Texas has opened 18 supply centers in the state where supporters can pick up signs, volunteer packs, campaign material. And we're on the air in Texas in English and in Spanish, and we're devoting an awful lot of money into Texas. And I think we have a shot, but I think the Democrats are going to win back the House. We got some really good candidates running as well. So I feel good about Texas.
You said in the last debate that you would transition away from the oil industry. A lot of people here in Texas were very concerned when you said that. What do you say to them?
Well, they should be concerned if it was interpreted the way Trump is saying it. Number one, the initial discussion was, would I take away the oil subsidies? The oil companies get $40 billion over 10 years in subsidies. They don't need those subsidies. We should be investing that in research and development, on carbon capture and a whole range of other things. The oil company's not going to go out of business at all. The fact of the matter is we're also in a position where Texas also is one of the largest providers of wind and solar in the world. You're an energy state across the board. So no, the oil industry is not going to go away. And the oil industry itself, if you notice what it's doing, it's branching out beyond oil. It's branching out beyond oil. So people are not going to lose their jobs. In fact, we're going to maintain and create millions more jobs. The labor unions down there have endorsed my plan because it's going to build and create good paying jobs and move toward an economy where we have multiple opportunities to deal with energy. And look, again, we're going to invest a lot in carbon capture and sequestration, but we're still going to have combustion engines. We're still going to need oil. And so it's not like it's going to go away.
And let's move to COVID. We are seeing increased cases once again in parts of Texas. So how would you work with Governor Abbott to get this pandemic under control here?
Well, first of all, I thought it was shocking that Mark Meadows, the chief of staff of the president, went on television and admitted what I said all the way back in March, that they're not even trying to deal with COVID. His quote was, "We're not going to control the pandemic." Then the Washington Post today said, quote, "White House gives up on trying to slow the virus's spread." No caveats, just a deadly admission. 230,000 people have already lost their lives already. And it's estimated there'll be another 200,000 dead in the next several months. And the president said he's a wartime president. Well, He's going to fight an invisible enemy, but he's walked away. He's literally put up the white flag. Some people said I was harsh when I said he put up the white flag several months ago. But they're surrendering the virus. And look, we know his own docs say if he just wore these masks, just these masks, we can save over 100,000 lives in between now and the end of the year. I don't know what this guy's doing. He just is completely devoid from reality.
So, Mr. Vice President, here in Texas, how would you work with the governor to get the COVID situation under control?
Well, there are several things that I would do. First of all, I hope the governor would work with us. He hasn't. He's been working with Trump so far. And there should be a mandate of people wearing masks. I would make that mandate in all federal properties. That's what I would do. But I would ask the governor to do the same thing, to mandate people wear masks in Texas. I would also make sure we spend a lot of money putting a national testing plan in place for the goal of testing as many people each day as we currently test every week, once a week. And so third, we got to provide the personal protective gear, gloves, masks, shields, etc. And fourth, we're going to provide schools and businesses with consistent, reliable, trusted, detailed nationwide guidance and technical support to reopen safely and give them the resources necessary. The House has already passed those resources through what they call the HEROES Act. And the president was in the summer, was in his golf courses in a bunker and then hiding in a bunker in Washington. He hadn't done a thing to bring them together. We know that it's going to cost roughly, to get all schools open safely, roughly $200 billion. But we can do that. Class sizes have to be smaller. They need all the protective equipment. They need new ventilation systems. They need to be able to have more teachers. There's a whole range of things we can do it. And finally, I'll be focused on developing a more safe and effective treatments, ultimately distributing a safe and effective vaccine that's going to help us fight back against the disease. I'm going to ask the new Congress to put my bill on my desk in January with all the resources necessary to see both our public health and our economic response through to the end. The Biden-Harris agenda is to beat COVID-19, not walk away from it and say there's nothing we can do about it.